Kids at Mass. Woo! What a ride. Alright, so this is something that is near and dear to my heart because, like I've said, if you don't know already, I have 2 children, and one of them is 1 and the other one is 2. And so that can be a handful during Mass. And I figured if you are a young parent out there who's having trouble with your children at Mass, especially the little ones, perhaps there are some things I can help you with or give you some advice for bringing your children to Mass. First of all, let me talk to you, parent to parent. Mass is not going to be like Mass before your kids, when you could just go in 30 minutes earlier. I loved going in 30 minutes early before Mass actually started so I could get into the zone, say a prayer, maybe a rosary, and, have the time to just focus on God before Mass. It's not going to be like that. Not with kids. And that's okay. That is completely okay. The Lord has called you to be their parent, their dad, their mom. And so it's not going to be a quiet Mass. And you're not going to be able to pray like you used to. Totally, totally fine. The Lord is not calling you to be attentive and to respond to every single thing during Mass, while at Mass. He's calling you to take care of your child and to bring your child to Mass. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Another thing, don't worry about people looking at you or, giving you the eye, or maybe you hear someone comment like, another kid. It's very, very rare, first of all, that you hear that. But even if you do hear it, don't pay any attention to them. They don't know what they're talking about. But most people, when they do hear children, it's either they're very delighted because, young Catholics, young Christians coming to Mass, that's awesome, And also, most of the time, they're focused on the Mass. So they might see your kid smile and then look back. Don't think that your kid and you and whatever is going on with you and your kid is what everybody's paying attention to. And most people are paying attention to God and Jesus because that at least they're supposed to, but that's what they're here for. So don't worry about other people if your kids start to, lose it a bit. That is not to say, though, that if, like Tiny Tim, okay, I'll go with Tiny Tim. Tiny Tim, your child, starts going a little crazy and starts screaming, that you should just leave him. There are limits, and they're limits because they're your kid. A train. Ooh, a train. If the kid needs to go away for a bit, that's fine. You can bring them back. Yeah. And one last thing as a parent to parent, stay calm. Okay? If your kid starts to go a little crazy and you feel that little, sensation, say 3 Hail Marys and just stay calm. And if you see another parent about to lose it, pray for them. The other day there was a woman and she had 5 of her children and her husband wasn't there that day. And, one of them was small and was just like grabbing for her attention and wanting, milk. And then once that kid calmed down, the other kid's like, Mom, I want you, Mom, and I was just like, Lord, please give her patience. Give this mother patience. So pray for the other parents. And if you're not a parent, please pray for us. Pray for the parents, because sometimes we're just so close. But thank God that we're in the presence of God when these things are happening. And if you do see, this is just for if you see kids and parents, kind of struggling, maybe you can offer to help, go up to the parent, ask if they need any help, especially that lady who's just alone with her 5 children, or just try not to look and try to just pray for them and focus on God for your children. Bring them as early as possible. There's probably a misconception. So for newborns, that is awesome when you bring them to Mass. Most newborns, I'm generalizing here, most newborns are pretty chill at Mass because they just sleep. Those first 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 months, they just like sleep. But once that passes, like 6, 7, 8, 9, when they become closer to toddlerhood, that's when it gets a little rough. If you are a new parent and you don't know when to bring your kid, I would say bring them as early as possible. They will most likely just fall asleep, and there is no shame if your baby needs to breastfeed. For all you breastfeeding mothers out there, because I breastfeed, and I just stay in the back, and no one's gonna pay any mind to mother breastfeeding. They'll probably just pray for you. Just bring them as early as possible, because like it is an experience for your baby. They're just discovering this world, and so bringing them to Mass, having that sensation of the different scents and the different atmosphere, and like is good. And like I said, most of the time they're just gonna sleep. When it comes to toddlers, though, I think toddlers and small children is when it's hardest. Once they're around like 7, 8, 9, 10, they're a little better, and they understand what's going on and what to do. But for little children, I think what's best is if you prepare them for Mass. So tell them before you go, even the night before, tomorrow we're going to go to church, we're going to go to Mass, and tomorrow we're going to go see Jesus. That's what I usually tell my son. We're going to go see Jesus. And so he knows what to expect. And since he's been going ever since he was a baby, it's normal. In terms of keeping them occupied, I think it's best to not give them something immediately. So this is all just my opinion. If you're another parent out there, if you have any advice in your opinion, I would love to hear it in the comments below. But for me, I think it's best if you just let them go in, let them know that we're here to see Jesus. Let them have a sit, let them sit and just experience. Maybe ask them to do a little prayer, if they can kneel and do the sign of the cross with you, that's awesome. But I don't think we should give them a book or a toy immediately as soon as we get to church, just so that they don't expect it immediately. I think books over toys is better, just because I think toys can be a little distracting to other children. A book, not as much. I was like, oh, you have a book. Okay. My kid loves books, so my son especially. So that might be that might be distracting for him, but it's not as distracting as like a toy. But if that's the only thing that your kid can, occupy themselves with, then yeah, give them the toy. But just try to bring a quiet toy. I think books are a little bit better, just so they know as well it's still a place that we're not here to play, we're here to pray. I think it's the same for food. Last resort, because I've had to do this because my kid, and it's kind of hard with smaller ones just because they're still very hungry all the time. Try to feed them before church, and if the kid is hungry at church, like give it to him. Just clean up afterwards. Cry rooms. I live in France, so there are no cry rooms, and that's good. I don't remember having a cry room in Toronto. Well, I didn't have any kids, but I think that should be your very, very last resort. But like I said, I live in France and there are no cry rooms, and so my last resort is just to take them outside of the chapel. And when it's raining, well, that's too bad. Most of the time they just need to be in the back of the chapel. Your kid is not going to be an angel for the whole Mass. It will happen that certain, there might be a Mass where you're like, wow, my kid is so good, he's so quiet, and like this is going to be like this forever. No, that's like a one-off. One day he'll be nice, quiet like an angel. Another day, oh look, the doors are open outside. I think outside is more interesting than inside. That's normal. And so if your kid needs to go outside for about 5 minutes, that's fine. Let them go outside, but bring them back in. Don't keep them outside. Okay, I thought I should quickly share what happened at church today. So We went to Mass this morning, and my daughter, from the get-go, was just not having it. She was crying and screaming, and I was just going in and out of the chapel because she would cry, and I would take her out, she would calm down, and I would go in, and then she would lose it again because she was just tired. She needed to sleep. And right before the Mass started, the priest came out, and this is not our regular priest, this is a different priest that is replacing him for the time being. The altar boys and the priest were about to go in. Right before he entered the church, he came up to me and said, "Please go in." And my daughter was screaming her head off. The priest said, don't worry, I don't mind this at all. Please go in. This, pointing to my daughter crying, is okay. Please go inside. If you're self-conscious about someone or people looking at you because your kid is crying, know that it's completely okay. And the priest celebrating Mass does not care if your kid is crying in the back. If your kid is in the front making a scene, like pulling stuff, okay. But if your little baby toddler is screaming in the back and just can't, calm down, it is okay. They know, the priest knows, and most people understand that you're doing everything you can to get that child to calm down. Yeah, and I thought I should just share this experience with you because I was about to lose it, and Mass hadn't even started. Anyway, I say this so that, bring them in for the very important moments like the consecration and tell them, look, it's Jesus. We have to be quiet. Let's say a prayer. Let's say thank you to Jesus and for what he's done. Let them know that that is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ, and we must act as such. Like, we must act as it is, not as if it is, as it is. And so bringing them back in for consecration is good to show them how important it is. Doing this will help them understand the importance of Mass, the importance of church, the importance of the place that they're in, of God and Jesus. And so we can't just take the children away just because they're moving too much or they're getting a little rowdy. We want to bring them back in, and we want to be good examples to them. And no one at church expects your kid to be 100% angelic the whole time, especially toddlers and little children. And as for people who go to church without children, or you don't have any children anymore, I think most of them just rejoice when they hear a child in the back, or children, a mother with 5 children, because that means God's family is growing, and we should be happy for those children that come in. If I've missed anything and you're a parent and you have advice on bringing your kids to Mass, let me know in the comments below. What do you give them, to keep them occupied, or to help them focus on what's going on in the front at Mass? Let me know in the comments below. I'm sure you have wise words of wisdom to share with everybody. My name is Alexis. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. God bless.